A lot of us think that we should make decisions in life based on how much money we're going to get. Well, I'll tell you the truth. Anything in sustainability, anything in arts, you're not going to make millions and millions of dollars. Don't count on it. What you are going to experience a lot of is hunger and pain. In the case of circus school, literal hunger and pain. Going to bed hungry because you can't eat all that you want or your body is not going to function the way it should. And waking up in pain. There's a saying in circus that if an acrobat wakes up in the morning and they're not feeling pain, it's because they're dead. Pain is what tells us that we worked as hard as we could the night before. And hunger is what tells us that we're living lean and that we're living with that hunger. When you're talking about business, when you're talking about economics, when you're talking about sustainability, it's a different type of hunger that drives you, and it's a different type of pain that you feel. But if you don't have the passion to get through that, you'll have to think about how long you're going to be able to sustain your career in this field. The next is the idea of 10,000 hours. Many of you have heard this before, the idea that to become a master of anything, you need to spend 10 hours in conscious pursuit of that activity. This is a one-arm handstand. It takes years and years and years before you can even start to train a one-arm handstand. What that means is that any one day's activity has no impact on whether or not you're going to be able to achieve this skill. It's only the culmination of many, many years of training that will get you to this point. It's the same thing if you're starting a business. It's the same thing if you're trying to build a sustainable enterprise. Nothing you do today is going to have an impact. Can you deal with that frustration by keeping your vision on the long-term goals? The next is the idea of control versus chaos. We have a tendency to think that we have to control every aspect of our life. And this was the mentality I had when I started training in acrobatics after MIT. I would try and think about the physics behind it, think about the equations that were governing my backflips. If you try and do this, you don't have enough time to react in the moment, and you end up landing on your head a lot. In order to succeed at some of the things that we need to do, it's a true leap of faith. To be able to jump off of a platform, turn yourself multiple times in the air, twist yourself multiple times on the air, and trust that you're going to land on your feet. Do you have the confidence in yourself to take these leaps of faith? The next idea is the idea of dynamic stasis. I'm doing a handstand here on top of blocks. It looks like I'm completely stable and not doing anything, but in fact, I'm working extremely hard to try and just maintain the balance, because this is 4 blocks on each side, individually stacked. I'll show a video of what this looks like in practice so you understand more what it's happening. So what this means to me is that everybody applauds when I do the fall and when I do the backflip. But in fact, the hardest part of that trick is getting up there in the first place. Once I'm there, everything else happens on its own. This is so much like building a business. This is so much like trying to build a sustainable enterprise. The hard part is building the reputation, building the authority, building the network around you, and getting the people passionate about the same goal that you have, and finding ways that you can align yourself with other people's passion. Once you have that there, everything else happens on its own. The hard work happens up front. And this is something that's very important as you're trying to make an impact going forward. So after years of performing, I realized that I really wasn't satisfied being only a performer. I also wanted to start a business. When you look at this picture, you see 2 friends. What you don't realize is that me on the right, I actually don't have a home at this time. I'm living in Tokyo. I'm sleeping in a 24-hour gym. I'm waking up in the morning, going to meetings. After the meetings, going to the gym, showering, training, and then going to sleep in the corner of the gym. It sounds terrible, but at this moment, I was about as happy as I've ever been in my life because I was pursuing my dream. At a certain point, I ran out of enough money to be able to afford a plane ticket back home. My mother said, "It's all right, we'll cover your plane ticket, you can come back home to Minnesota, you can work at McDonald's." But I said, no, I'm living the life that I want to live. I was only a producer, only an entrepreneur in the arts because that's what I told myself that I was. I ran out of rent to pay for my apartment. It's fine. I knew that my next project was right around the corner. I was so sure I was going to succeed. It was a huge risk. And risking everything, I think, is something that everyone needs to experience at least once in their life, as long as they're willing to blame themselves for whatever might come from that. And you would be surprised, once you get to that point where you've lost everything, at how much you are capable of achieving. And you will never be afraid again of losing everything because you know that you were able to build things up from that place that you were so afraid to get to. So eventually my company did get off the ground. It was called New Circus Asia. We produced projects in about 20 countries around the world. There's a press clipping on the bottom from Taiwan. I'm in Turkey in the middle picture there, in Tokyo up above, again in Canada around. And building this company was really an interesting experience for me. This was the example of the first project that I did after almost 2 months without a home in Tokyo. The reason why I got there is because they kept delaying the production date, and I naively assumed, oh, this time they mean it, this time they mean it, this time they mean it. When I look back now, I can't believe I was so hopeful, first of all, and also so lucky that the project actually happened. What would have happened if this project hadn't actually occurred? But based on this project, we were able to get some traction in the market and to eventually build the company.